So this article came out a while ago. We'll talk about it now. I was planning on making a scripted video about this, but I scrapped it because it was a bit boring to write, and I think it'd just work better as an unscripted sort of analysis here. Do we have a date here? It's usually at the bottom, right? Here we go. The date was right fucking here. I was looking for it. So June 18th is when this came out. So it came out quite a while ago. And I did plan on making an unscripted video. No, a scripted video, rather, where I analyze sort of the points. But that got boring to write, so we'll do it here. And we'll talk about this stuff, because I don't think it should be dismissed as easily as many people have done and sort of obfuscate the criticism, even if it is a very left-leaning criticism. I'm a left-leaning boy, so we'll give my take on all of this stuff. If I remember, this article sort of boils down to him having issue with the word pure being used at all, because that's seen as problematic. And, yeah, and besides that, there was one other... it's the old Pixis criticism, because Pixis is based off an old Japanese general that Isayama said he might have admired once, who was horribly racist against Korean people, as the Japanese tend to be. There's like tons of books that I've seen or heard about written, sort of like fiction books about the divide between Korean immigrants in Japan and normal Japanese people, where they tend to not like each other. Sort of like how the Irish were treated in every other white country by sort of the English people. Definitely happened here in Australia, where the Irish were not treated very well by the fucking British settlers when they immigrated in the 1800s. The modern manga and anime industries would not exist without Attack on Titan, without Hajime Isayama's dystopian series and its massive global fan-based country brawl. Would remain a curiosity instead of a glowing stream of powerhouse and a production partner it has become. Alright, yes, Attack on Titan did something. Similarly, with rights to the anime, which concluded its third season this month, Netflix certainly won't big power anime market, licensed Neon Genesis Evangelion. Joe Adult Swim is licensed Funimation Attack on Titan dub for its Sunday Tsunami block. Right, this has nothing to do with anything. But recent events within the manga have given readers pause, in particular the major twists of this series, as well as what's been occurring since then, has drawn some uncomfortable parallels to global anti-Semitism, far-right Japanese politics, and Isayama's own personal politics. And note, this article contains spoilers from Attack on Titan and depictions of anti-Semitic imagery, the Holocaust, and the war crimes. So, the anti-Semitism is obviously how the Eldians are treated in Mali, which is sort of interesting now that we know they were once based off the Germanic tribes. The Jewish people in Germany were also German, so it didn't really matter whether or not they were nationalistic. It was clearly a Jewish race thing. Far-right Japanese politics, this is the identitarian Japan, where they're talking about Pixis here. So they're talking about the Eldians in Mali with this comment, and then Pixis's character design and who it's based off here, and this is probably Isayama's points where he's talked about this part. I'm sure they'll go into better detail here. Aimed at a slightly older audience than the big three manga in the early 2000s, Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece. Attack on Titan may be more than anime fans or casual watchers, arriving as it did at the crest of the dystopian fiction wave in the West. That's true, I guess. This again has nothing to do with anything, and while that fever has died off, the series still has plenty of devoted followers. A single video game split off in a parody manga. Yes, we know. There is an original comics anthology by Western talent. Creators, yes, fuck me. Crossover with Marvel. It's very fucking popular. We're dragging things out here. But as with any long-running manga, the closer you get to its endgame, the easier it is to see what the message of this series really is. This is interesting. The message of Attack on Titan appears to have anti-Semitic and pro-fascist leanings. Given the cynical nature of the manga production and anime seasons, the fandom chatter around Attack on Titan's themes comes and goes, and now that the anime's third season is getting to the start of where it all becomes clear, it's a good time to unpack it all, the big twist of Attack on Titan. So we're going to talk about the basement here and how that leads into the anti-Semitic depictions in Attack on Titan. For the series' first several arcs, the protagonist Eren Yeager was driven by two things. First, to destroy every single Titan he could find to avenge his mother's death and the destruction of his hometown, and the second, to make his way back to the ruins of his house in the basement. Even with the implications of his thrown away, including learning that he can transform into a Titan, Eren never wavered in this. That's certainly not true. That's absolutely not true. He wanted to fucking die at one point, so... but this dude says here that he is not that big of a fan anyway. In the series' 85th chapter, Eren finally got his answer, making his way down to the basement. At long last, Eren discovered a photograph, something that he had never heard of his father with another wife and son. The following chapter showed Eren's father, the journal of Eren's father, Grisha, revealing that he was actually from the outside world. That is to say that what Eren and the other characters thought all along, that humanity was largely destroyed by the Titans with its ruins behind the three walls, was wrong. Grisha's journal explained, was actually the nation of Mali, and like our main character is a member of a race known as Eldians. The Eldians, the journal revealed, once ruled the world, their reign stretching back nearly 2,000 years. In that era, a woman named Ymir somehow acquired the power of the Titan, just exactly how it's never clearly said. Well, it is now, Buster. And used it to establish the nation of Eldia. 13 years later, Ymir died in the fate of all who become Titans, which split her soul into 9 Titans, whose power into 3 Titans that were then given to 9 people eventually, whose power... That's something we knew. He couldn't have known that at the time, though. We'll give him a pass. Whose power was given to 9 subjects, passing down their powers through the noble bloodlines. That's not necessarily true. It wasn't always the noble bloodlines. In fact, it actually wasn't the noble bloodlines, right? The noble bloodlines were not subjects of Ymir and couldn't become Titans in the first place. That's why they can't get their memories altered. So that's not true. Little factual inaccuracies in this article. Who would have figured? The 9 Titans established the world-conquering, blood-soaked legacy of the Eldian Empire, and in particular devastated the nation of army in fighting, eventually consumed the Titan nobility, and eventually the Karl Fritz was ashamed of his people's legacy and how they had conquered Mali. He orchestrated a civil war that destroyed the Eldian Empire, allowing Mali to swoop in and acquire the majority of the 9 Titans. Fritz took the... are we getting a fucking plot synopsis here, or are we getting to the fucking point? Firstly, the thousands of colossal Titans built in the modern day. Grisha, Eren's father... was swept up in a movement to topple the Malayan government and restore the Eldian monarchy. He even then married into the Royal Highness, had a son. Alright, yes, we know all this. Get to the point. But his royal first wife transformed into a Titan. Eventually, yes, and Grisha's Eren gave journalists friends the knowledge of civilization wasn't alone after all. They staged a massive military coup on their own government, seizing control of Paradise. They had plans to do a 100-year technological gap with the rest of the world and establish the Eldian nation. Now, this is not entirely true, right? They don't want to establish Eldian dictatorship. They just want to become a nation again and sort of re-enter geopolitics. Currently, Attack on Titan manga is in its final arc, with a 4-year time jump ending in Eren and his followers attacking Malayan soil in front of international dignitaries, without the authorization of Paradise's government. That's not true. Eren did it without them, but they attacked because Eren attacked. And meanwhile, 100 soldiers have formed a faction to support Eren's goal in the Eldia restoration, assassinating the current government head, and plotting to carry out Eren's plan, New Eldian Empire via the Rumbling, that is helping Eren rank in every single time to destroy the world. The good, the bad, and the very, very bad. Here we go. We're finally going to get to some fucking analysis here. Despite being wowed by Wit Studios' dynamic visuals and undeniably badass first opening theme song, I could never get into Attack on Titan. This is the most fucking generic praise I've ever heard that I expect from some fucking... I won't continue that. I could never get into Attack on Titan. Now this is a very interesting point, right? As you're definitely more susceptible to write a negative hit piece on a series that you're not particularly a fan of, right? If someone critiques a work of art you like for being problematic in a way, unwoke in a way, you're definitely going to push back. You'll always push back initially. You can never tell people what to think. They'll have to gestate on it and reflect on it themselves. So no one who read this article that was an Attack on Titan fan agreed with it, but maybe they reflected on it a little bit and eventually were like, yeah, maybe he's got a point. This is sort of something, I can relate this to a Berserk example, right? I don't necessarily like how it's constantly threatened on the female characters that they're going to get raped in Berserk. Now, the stupid realism counter-argument would be, well, did you know? Did you fucking get this? Wait for this part. Did you know in medieval times, rape was actually common and people would do it all the time? This is a terrible counter-argument. A bunch of people died because they got a cut in fucking medieval times, but this isn't translated into Berserk, right? This realism argument is terrible. That's not an argument. Obviously, an author could avoid having Casca fall over when they're running away from trolls, and it's like, oh no, is she going to get raped by the trolls, or is Guts going to run back and save her? Like, this is something that is not necessary when they get kidnapped by the trolls, and it's like the trolls just rape people. Basically, they're the goblins from Goblin Slayer. Basically, they're the goblins from Goblin Slayer, or at least what they were based off. And yeah, it's just sort of like, all right, we get it. The wild bullshit is like the worst example of this, where it's like, okay, we're clearly just having Casca nearly get raped for fucking cheap tension and bullshit, and it's not necessary, and it's problematic, and it's bad, right? But like, I didn't initially think that. I was like, no, fuck off, Berserk is great. Why would you critique it? And eventually, on retrospect, yeah, the wild stuff is pretty bad. There are good parts, like I like that it's the first one, the first apostle Guts ever takes out. It does nice to set up the thing. It has a great Zod moment at the end. It's sort of a cool character design, but all the rape stuff, there's a terrible rape scene with Wild and like a 13-year-old girl in that like they run through a farm and she like helps Griffith and then Wild's band runs through, and it's fucking like the most like hideous page in all of Berserk, that fucking one spread of her biting down on her arm. It's just fucking awful. And that shit's problematic, and it probably doesn't need to exist in Berserk. Now this I don't agree with at all. Now the fact that he thinks the word pure is problematic, because I've read this before, this is not my first time reading this. I can sort of sympathize with that. I can sort of give him some leeway here. And the Korean stuff with Pixis I basically know nothing about, so that could be problematic. And maybe Isayama is a right-wing nationalist, though the themes of the series are not nationalistic. It's sort of it's a gimmick. It's really interesting what it does, right? Because the opening themes of the Attack on Titan anime are like these nationalistic anthems of humanity surviving and taking out the Titans. Now, past season 3, you can't do that anymore, right? Because it's just people fighting people now with Titans on both sides. So that shit doesn't fly. And we see nationalism, like when Zachary gets blown up and assassinated, which he didn't mention in this, but he cut out of his analysis anyway here. Like, the people that are outside the gates chanting for LD as, like, restoration are clearly portrayed as the insane bad guys in that scene. That's in, like, chapter 110, I think. Let's fucking find the scene. Oh, not 100, 110. Like, they're clearly portrayed as the bad guys. I think I might have got the exact fucking chapter. Go me. Oh, gross. Scroll the fuck down quicker, you prick. Yeah, it's right here, because they're, like, outside. And then we get here, yeah, they're all cheering. Our anger reached them. I'm joining the fight too, so am I. Let us bring victory to the new Eldian Empire, dedicate our hearts. Now, this is incredibly important. The fact that they say dedicate your hearts as like, this is like it's our creed, right? This is what they punch their hearts and they do that cool pose that everyone likes to mimic, and they say to dedicate your hearts to humanity. Now we're being told that this was actually a bad thing. This devoted nationalism was misplaced and stupid. When you sung along with those theme songs, it was stupid. You got duped. We should not be cheering along with those theme songs, those fucking anthems, those war anthems, those nationalistic anthems that are supposed to... Because I've seen that's been such a talking point between people who don't understand Attack on Titan, that like Attack on Titan glorifies joining the military, and it's sort of a plea. Like, I've seen like conspiracy theories that Isayama has been hired by the Japanese government to put these sort of nationalistic themes into his story, so people want to join the military, even though Japan doesn't have a standing military. I don't think they're allowed to have one since World War II. But like, people should get this nationalistic pride and maybe call for a military, because Japan is like making preparations to have a military once again, I'm pretty sure, especially with the North Korea bullshit that's going on. But like, this scene basically proves that he's undermining all of that. It's sort of like he's commenting on how little we knew back then and how stupid it was of us to get excited and think that we were fighting for the rest of humanity, when really it was just two sides of one war of humans. There was no like existential Titan threat. It was just humans fighting humans. When Pixis and Eren have that conversation about when all the Titans are gone, then humans will just fight each other. It's like, no, the Titans are a byproduct of humans fighting each other. Like, they are humans and you are humans and you're fighting. They're not some like otherworldly threat. And it's sort of like, this line is so important to undermine everything in this article. It's just like, no, Attack on Titan is inherently not nationalistic. Eldia and Marley are both portrayed to do evil things, and to support Marley or to support Eldia is to miss the entire point of what Isayama is trying to say. He's trying to say that these both entities are stupid. They've both done incredibly fucked up things for generations, and that individual people are not countries and sort of things like that. It's like not nationalistic at all. And to think that is just like undermined it. And we're led to think that for a long time, and then he subverted that, just like he's done with everything, where everything's been planned out and everything has nearly been subverted by this point. And sort of this is like a reflection of what we once stood for. This was once us cheering on the good side to kill the bad side, for the humans to defeat the Titans. That's what they think this is about. They think the Marleans are completely irredeemable, they're not human, we have to beat them for our survival. That's what we thought about the Titans. We were once these people. And now this is a reflection of what we used to believe, and it's sort of holding a mirror up to the audience and saying, yeah, that was fucking stupid what we used to think, right? We understand that now. Yeah, and that's what that's all about, and that sort of undermines the entire purpose of this fucking review. Despite being, I could never get into Attack on Titan, but still having read the entire manga, I acknowledge that Isayama has some strengths. He comes some passive-aggressive fucking praising. For one thing, his pencils are filled with the pure energy, and his ink is very good at capturing the pure horror that envelops the characters time and time again. That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. For another reason, the tension successfully... Can we get to the fucking criticism here? But the well aesthetics and pacing can only do so much before you start to notice the ideas bubbling underneath the surface. Isayama's work is full of anti-Korean, nationalistic pro-Japan subtext, parallels to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and subtextual references to Nazi Germany. I mean, are they really subtextual? They're not blatantly stated, so I guess under the most technical sense they're subtextual, but it's very fucking obvious. Everyone that saw the armbands knew that they were playing off Nazi stuff, and it's not like the Nazi equivalents in Attack on Titan. The Marleans are portrayed as good things, good people. They're inherently not. Parallels to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. I'm unsure. Are we talking about the JQ? What's going on here? Pro-Japan subtext and nationalism, I just went over how that's not true at all. And this anti-Korean stuff could be possible because I know nothing about this. And why Isayama likes this one, like, anti-Korean nationalist dude. Full of this is a bit fucking overstating the point as well. For one thing, the so-called Titans, that is, the random Titans that menace new creepily smiling cannibals, these pure Titans are mindless and even needing to eat. They're just for fun. This is not true either. Not needing to eat to live so much as for fun. They don't eat for fun. They actually do eat to live because they have some subconscious signal. The reason they eat people on an evolutionary psychology sort of level is that, well, eventually if they eat enough people, they might eat a Titan shifter and they might get their freedom back. So yeah, it's not just for fun. It's literally a survival instinct in a way. Gaining your mortality, gaining your freedom back. So that's not true at all. Many of them have grotesque or exaggerated features, from short arms to giant heads. Large note, yes, we know. Wearing star-embroidered armbands. I already talked about this for another. The military might is presented as the strongest, truest power of all. That's inherently not true at all. Eren is not like Eren transforms into a Titan in like episode 7, right? And they do not take over the military for a long time, and Eren is almost no help. He's literally no help in that. So this is undeniably not true. Eren is probably the strongest individually, and so is Levi, and they have nothing to do with why the military is overthrown. It's literally a trick that Irvin and Pixis pull on the government to see if they actually care about the welfare of the people, and they fail that test, and that's how they overthrow the government. There's also a whole subplot in the Uprising arc about the paper and propaganda and stuff like that, so no. Military might is not presented as the strongest, truest power of all. I could not think of a single story where this would ever be true, and that's an incredibly surface level thing to think about any story, and pretty indefensible. This goes far and beyond the typical theme of Japanese action fiction, a group of friends banding together doing their best and changing the world. Frequently, the military, particularly the Survey Corps and Eren and the rest of the main cast belong to, is represented as full, pure, rational decision makers and unquestioned commanders. This is not true at all. They constantly question the commanders. There's like a whole part in the forest where they're chasing after Annie, where everyone's like, what the fuck is Erwin thinking taking us here? What a dumb fuck. Before everyone dies in Attack on Titan Nilly, they all think about how pointless it was. Marlowe thinks of Hitch and is like, oh, I wish I was in my bed right now as he dies. Like, it's not like a glorification thing. And if we do get a Devilman ending, like I've been talking about, then this would be entirely false, because it would have led them down to the path to absolute destruction. So this is not true at all. There's other examples of this, like in the Battle of Shinganshina, when no one wants to do the suicide mission. Sure, Erwin convinces them that to give the previous soldiers' lives that have died meaning, they have to fight, and then the next generation will keep their lives aligned as they continue to fight. But with the attack on Marley, like, it's been pretty proven that Eren fucked everything up by trying to attack people and kill people. When every one of our characters that we are actually supposed to like and side with wanted to do it diplomatically. Hanji wanted to do it diplomatically. Armin wanted to do it diplomatically. Yeah, so that's a pretty stupid fucking thing to say. The clearly unhinged soldiers like the Titan researcher Hanji Zoe and the goofball Sharpenmaz are mocked. This is not true at all. Hanji is literally the commander of the Survey Corps now. He's contradicted himself by saying they unquestion their commanders and then saying that the commander is mocked. But the certitude that they should lead is never interrogated. Are we going with a feminist angle here? Because Hanji is sort of undermined more than Erwin ever was, though, so... Fuck, we're nearly dead. I said we'll go until the laptop dies, and we're nearly dead. I want to do this in Joker discussion, so we better hurry the fuck up. Stepping back from the text itself to what Isayama said about the text, all sorts of uncomfortable panels from real world history, and in the blog post, Isayama, who has always maintained the series was inspired by an incident where he was accosted in a larger drunken cafe, admitted that a supporting character, Wily Dr. Pixel, was based on real life he served Japanese Imperial Army from 19... Yeah, well, fucking, it wasn't like Americans were the most fucking progressive people back in the early 1900s. Considered a hero in Japan, with Isayama admitting himself he found the general an admirable figure for his actions against the war. So this is like some, like, actually, firstly, there was countless atrocities against Korea and China during Japanese occupations. Yeah, he was a fucking warlord. What do we want? Isayama admitted that a supporting character was based on a real-life Japanese general. Yeah, right. He seems like a pretty prick of a dude. And he didn't provide a quote where he said that Isayama admired him. I don't know. This is being presented in a very biased way, so it'd be stupid for us to believe anything at all. As a popular advice blog, ask a Korean detail to know the end. Alright, yes, so we're going into this now. I don't know anything about this, so you may as well skip over it. For its part, China has simply banned Attack on Titan outright. I don't think it's necessarily because of this that they banned it. Not many things get past the Chinese censors, rather, as we've learned very recently. And now there's the ultimate goal of the Jaegerists, who are not portrayed as the good guys. So does this even matter? Being they re-establish the Eldian Empire, Nazi Germany, and eventually the apocalypse of the manga seems to be building world subjectory is like an out of Alex Jones' darkest ravings. Okay, they're the bad guys. What else do you want? That is to say that it's not so hard to draw the line between the Jaegerists and the right-wing point of Jews or the globalists. I don't know, just because it has an IST. Either, they're not really globalists either. This is a very big reach, I think, to say that this is some way impacting like the anti-Jewish globalist dog whistle. I don't know. I don't think that's at all. These parallels have been played out viewing and the reading in public. In an essay, Women's Right About comments shortly after the anime begins, pointing out that Isayama is old enough to have lived through the Great Recession and knows journals in 1980 economic bubble burst. This rise is also coincides with the election of Japanese right-wing militia Abe, who infamously interpreted articles written by the forbids in front of the standing army. This is that army shit I was talking about. I didn't know he actually went into this. Well, I dismissed all this around. But why are people seemingly anime longer? Devoted fan base for another world, hate groups, authoritarian nationalism, rise in the US and Japan and far beyond. Yeah, but the US, like, nationalism rise is completely different. I think, anyway. I think that really the only point he had was maybe the word pure is a bit problematic, and maybe I'd agree to that. Maybe we shouldn't call things pure, like pure-blooded things pure anymore, if it's not explicitly for a negative context, like in Harry Potter or something like that. Finally, the Titan exploded into a scene as being huge, so a right-wing lean from Gate, a sci-fi show of engines. I don't know, I haven't seen Gate. Darling in the Franxx, I know that was an Evangelion ripoff. That's literally all I know about that. Hold on. What? Are we done with this? I think we are. Oh, we got like 2 paragraphs left. Alright, I'll watch it when we finish these 2 paragraphs. Put simply, the stuff in people's reason minds are easy to spot on, as the outrage seemed to occur in cycles. While Japanese property, there's always a crowd to read the manga. Alright, yeah, I talked about this. Not as stupid as people made it out to be, but I don't necessarily agree with it.